What's going on, guys? Nelsite Gaming here once again with another deck tech video, and today we are taking a look at my Kumena Tyrant of Orazca EDH deck. Now, the reason why I'm doing this deck tech is because we're getting a lot of Merfolk support in this upcoming Ixalan set, and I just wanted to show you guys my version before it becomes a little bit more powerful than it already is. So, we got a Simic Commander here, guys, and it's a 2/4 Merfolk Shaman that reads, tap another untapped Merfolk you control and Kumena can't be blocked this turn. Tap 3 untapped Merfolk you control to draw a card. Tap 5 untapped Merfolk you control to put a +1/+1 counter on each Merfolk you control. So, strategy of the deck is we want to keep our Merfolk CMC down to the ground. 1 drops, 2 drops, 3 drops. Get them out as quick as possible. Tap them for value. Eventually either combo out or win by combat by getting them pumped up. Or you can also make Kumena really big and win with commander damage using the whole island walk. We'll get into it. So we're about to get into the creatures here, starting with Tidal Warrior, a 1/1 for blue that says tap target land is an island until end of turn. So you're starting to see here what we're doing. Following card is a Reeve Shaman, is a Merfolk 0/2 for a blue. Tap target land's type becomes the basic land type of your choice until end of turn, so we're turning it into an island. Tide Shaper Mystic does the same thing, except you can only play it during your turn. Mistcaller is a 1/1 for a blue that says sacrifice Mistcaller until end of turn. If a non-token creature would enter the battlefield and it wasn't cast, exile it instead. And that is a great effect to use because there's a lot of commanders nowadays that cheat creatures out into play without them being cast, and this has helped me in many games, especially since it says until end of turn, and sometimes some of these stack, so that's actually pretty cool. Next up, we've got Tide Shaper, a 1/1 Merfolk Wizard with Kicker 1, and when it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, target land becomes an island for as long as Tide Shaper remains on the battlefield. Tide Shaper gets +1/+1 as long as an opponent controls an island. They sure will. Triton Shore Stalker is a 1/1 for a blue. Starting to notice a pattern here. Triton Shore Stalker can't be blocked, so even if we don't give him Island Walk, if we make him really big, we can get in for a lot of damage, and he's really cheap. Benthic Biomancer is a 1/1 for a blue that has pay 1 and a blue to adapt 1. If this creature has no +1/+1 counters on it, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on Benthic Biomancer, draw a card, then discard a card. Some value there. Curse Catcher is another 1-drop that you can sacrifice to counter target instant or sorcery spell unless its controller pays 1. It's always good. And Lord of Atlantis, the reason why this deck was built, I saw this card in the display case at my LGS. I had to buy it, and it's not a legendary creature, so I had to look for a home. So I built this home brick by brick just to house Lord of Atlantis, who is actually getting reprinted in the new set, but I do prefer this art instead. And it's a 2/2 Lord Merfolk, of course, and it says all Merfolk get +1/+1 and have Island Walk. So that's one of them. Here's the second one. Master of the Pearl Trident, another 2/2 for 2 blue. Other Merfolk creatures you control get +1/+1 and have Island Walk. So pretty much almost the same card. Here we have Grimoire Thief, a 2/2 Merfolk Rogue for blue. So this is a combo piece with some other enchantments that we have in here. It says, whenever Grimoire Thief becomes tapped, remove the top 3 cards of target opponent's library from the game face down. You may look at cards removed from the game with Grimoire Thief. You can pay a blue, sacrifice him, turn all cards removed from the game with Grimoire Thief face up, counter all spells with those names. So we're trying to mill our opponents with this card. Once we get Intruder Alarm and free Merfolk cast with Allurin, we're going to be able to draw into more 3/2 and 1 drops and continue. It's not really infinite. It just could be because we have so many creatures in this deck. So it could be infinite, but it's a really good combo. And if it doesn't pop off, if it doesn't do the combo, it's still a very cheap Merfolk to get some value from. Followed here by Merfolk Trickster, a 2/2 Merfolk Wizard that has Flash. When it enters the battlefield, tap target creature an opponent controls. It loses all abilities until end of turn. I really like that effect. Darting Merfolk is another combo piece. It is a 1/1 for 1 and a blue. You can pay blue, return it to your hand. So there is a way in this deck to activate that ability, putting it in your hand, and then casting it for free, untapping all your Merfolk. And if you can make more than I think if you can make more than 2 mana, you're going infinite. With infinite, as long as Kumena's on the battlefield, of course, you can get infinite draw. You can draw your entire deck, and you can have infinite mana. As long as you have Intruder, Alarm, and Alluring. So it's very important to get those. And as you know, Simic isn't the best enchantment tutoring, so we have some of that. We'll get to it later, but we don't really rely on the combo as much. It's just nice to have. This deck could very easily win on its own, turn 8 to 10 with combat damage. And here we have Stony Brook Banneret, or sure, yeah, Stony Brook Banneret, a 1/1 Merfolk Wizard for 1 and a blue with Island Walk. Merfolk spells and wizard spells you play cost, same thing, 1 colorless less to play. It's just a way to get some of our bigger guys down for cheap. Sea Scryer is a 1/1 Merfolk for 1 and a blue that taps to add a colorless mana to your mana pool, and you can pay 1 and tap it to filter that land or that mana into a blue mana. Just a little ramp piece. Thieving Skydiver is a 2/1 for 1 and a blue with Kicker X. Flying, when it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, you gain control of target artifact with converted mana cost X or less. If that artifact is an equipment, attach it to Thieving Skydiver. So I would just steal some early game Soul Rings or something. That's pretty cool. Waterfront Bouncer, also another combo piece. It's a 1/1 for 1 and a blue. You can play blue, tap it, discard a card from your hand, return target creature to its owner's hand. And once again, Intruder, Alarm, Alluring. If you can do that, bounce a Merfolk, play it, untap all your stuff, repeat, get that value. Great card, and I love the art on this guy. Silvergill Adept is a 2/1 Merfolk Wizard for 1 and a blue. As an additional cost to play Silvergill, reveal a Merfolk card from your hand or pay 3, and when it comes into play, draw a card. So you can draw your whole deck with that same combo that I just told you about. So it's pretty cool to have as long as you have a Merfolk in your hand, Alluring, Intruder, Alarm, and a way to bounce it. So lots of pieces in these combos, but doable, very doable. Merfolk Looter is a 1/1 for a 1 and a blue. You can tap it to draw a card and choose and discard a card. Fidelian Hexcatcher is a 1/1 for 1 and a blue with Flash. It's a Lord. It pumps up all your other Merfolk by 1/1. And you can sacrifice it to counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 1. Very nice card. Moving on to the Simic 2-drops. Here we have Kiora's Follower, a 2/2 Merfolk that can tap to untap another target permanent. And I love this card in this deck because you can untap a few lands that are good. I'm not running Gaia's Cradle in this deck right now. I do own the card. I haven't put it in. I probably won't. But this would be great to untap that. I do have Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx, so that's going to be awesome. As well as just untap some of the Merfolk that you can tap for value. It will come up on some of those here soon. So great card to have in this deck. Auto include, I would say. A Merfolk Skydiver, a 1/1 Merfolk Mutant for green and a blue. When it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. You can pay 3 green and a blue to proliferate. So that's pretty cool. It's not the reason why it's in the deck. It's probably one of the cards that I will cut out for the new cards, but it is in there because of its low mana value, as they say. Merfolk Mistbinder is a Merfolk Shaman. It's a 2/2 that just pumps up your guy. So just a nice cheap Lord. Deeproot Elite, it's a 1/1 Merfolk Warrior. Whenever another Merfolk enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on target Merfolk you control. So you can make infinite +1/+1 counters. You can distribute them how you want. I do believe this guy will get cut for one of the new ones. There's a new one that actually gives all your guys Flash, which in this deck is amazing. There's a lot of Explore cards. Cards that make your Merfolk explore. There's this new enchantment that you can tap a non-token Merfolk to make a 1/1. And actually, it isn't an activated ability. It says whenever you tap a non-token Merfolk creature, you make a 1/1 hexproof Merfolk. I can't wait for that card to come out. It is going to make the deck a lot more powerful, and it's a 2 CMC enchantment, so that's cool. And now we have Merfolk Sovereign, a 2/2 Merfolk. It's a Lord as well. Gets +1/+1 to our Merfolk, and it can tap to make target Merfolk creature unblockable this turn, which is great because we're going to be making some big creatures. And that evasion is always good. We've got a 2/2 Merfolk Wizard here, Sigil Tracer, for 1 blue. You can pay 1 and a blue to tap 2 untap wizards, which we have a ton of as Merfolk and Wizards. They overlap in this deck a lot. And you can copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Low Mage Mentor is a 2/2 Merfolk Wizard for 1 blue. Whenever a spell or ability you control counters a spell, you may put a 1/1 blue Merfolk creature token onto the battlefield. Tap 7 untap Merfolk you control, counter target spell. If you have Intruder Alarm in this deck, I mean, I do. But if you have it out, then you pretty much lock the game as long as you have 7 or more Merfolk, because you would just counter their spells, make a 1/1, untap, and then you just pretty much counter. It's very nasty. I might cut it. I haven't done that combo. It's just in there just in case. I might cut it for one of the new cards though, but yes. And then once you make that 1/1, you can, with Kumena out, you could draw your entire deck as long as you're countering a bunch of spells. But once you lock the game down, nobody's going to be casting. They're probably just going to scoop, which is probably why I'm going to cut this. But you can leave it depending on your pod. Kopala, Warden of Waves, a 2/2 Merfolk Wizard for 1 blue. Spells your opponents cast that target a Merfolk you control cost 2 more to cast. Same thing for abilities your opponents control that target your Merfolk. So same thing. It's protection for your Merfolk. That's pretty good. Emperor Mihail, or yeah, sure. The second, 3/3 for 1 blue. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast Merfolk spells from the top of your library, and whenever you do cast a Merfolk spell, you may pay 1, and if you do, create a 1/1 blue Merfolk creature token. Very, very nice card. One of my favorite old cards. This card was actually in my very first starter deck back in 2008. It's a 1/1 Merfolk roll called Cold-Eyed Selkie for 1 and a Simic. Island Walk, whenever Cold-Eyed Selkie deals combat damage to a player, you may draw that many cards. So get this guy really big, get him through, draw some cards. It's awesome, and I love the art. Here we have Mero Rigere? Oh, man. 2/2 Merfolk Soldier for 2 and a blue. Other Merfolk creatures you control get +1/+1. Whenever you play a Merfolk spell, you may tap or untap target permanent. And this is awesome for, once again, untapping lands, untapping creatures that tap for value. In this deck, it's just awesome. Drowner of Secrets is a combo piece in this deck as well. It's a 1/3 Merfolk Wizard for 2 and a blue. You can tap and untap Merfolk you control. Target player puts a top card of his or her library into his or her graveyard. So as long as you're getting those creatures out for free and you're untapping and just tap and untap and just milling everybody for what they have. I don't think it's completely infinite. If it is, please feel free to comment down below. I've tried Commander's Spell Table or Spellbook Commander, whatever it's called, and these combos don't pop up, but I assure you, they work really well. Drift of Phantasm. So this creature is a way for us to tutor for any 3-drop in our deck. It's a 0/5 spirit creature, so not a Merfolk, with Defender and Flying and Transmute. So you pay that 1 blue to discard it, search your library for a card that costs 3. So we're going to be getting that Intruder Alarm or any other 3-drop in the deck. Followed by a 2/2 Fallow Sage, a Merfolk Wizard. This is one of the only 4 CMC creatures in here. Why? Because you can tap it to draw a card. So you can just tap it to give your commander unblockable and just draw a card. So you can draw a card every rotation as long as you're untapping. You can untap it with Kiara's Follower. You can just tap this guy to draw a card. Why not? Here we have a Herald of Secret Streams, 2/3 Merfolk Warrior for 3 and a blue. Creatures you control get with +1/+1 counters on them can't be blocked. So that is very, very good. Here we have a Tutor, a 2/2 Mercenary, not a Merfolk, for 2 blue. But if you pay 3 and tap it, you can search your library for a Merfolk card and put that card into play, then shuffle your library. There is a few cards in this deck that are not creatures that are still considered Merfolk cards, so you can tutor for those. I used to have some higher CMC Merfolk in here that I would tutor for, but they were really clunky when you had them in your hand, so I decided not to play them. But I do use this guy still, depending on what I need. And one of, if not the golden pig of this deck, Seedborn Muse, a 2/4 spirit. Untap all permanents you control during each other player's untap step for 3 green. So this card is going to make our guys untap every untap, and we could just get so much value. It is our goal to get this type of effect out on the battlefield early on in the game so that we can get as much value as we can. So Seedborn Muse, and here's another one, Merfolk Liege, very similar, but it doesn't untap your lands, just your creatures, and it also pumps them up. It's an anthem, so untap all green and or blue creatures you control during each other player's untap step. So very good. And now we have some enchantments. We have Utopia Sprawl for a little bit of ramp. I used to have 3 visits and Nature's Lore. I just wanted to drop to a 1-drop. I don't know. I might change it out back because there's nothing like just getting the land, but we'll see what we'll do. For now, Utopia Sprawl it is. We have Cryptolith Rite, a very important piece. Creatures you control have tap. Add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool for 1 and a green. So a combo piece for sure in this deck, and very useful, especially with the Seedborn Muse effects. Earthcraft, one of my favorite looking cards. It's a reserve list card. I love it. It's an enchantment for 1 or green. Tap an untap creature you control, so it gets around that summoning sickness. You can untap target basic land. We do run enough basic lands in this deck to where this is very doable, and as long as you have a forest and an island, then you've got access to all your colors. Followed by that one Merfolk card that's not a creature that I talked to you about, Merrow Commerce. It's a tribal enchantment, Merfolk. At the end of your turn, untap all Merfolk you control for 1 and a blue. An additional untap. Sign me up. Quest for Renewal is pretty much, once again, one of those Seedborn Muse effects. Enchantment for 1 and a green. Whenever a creature you control becomes tapped, you may put a quest counter on Quest for Renewal. That is very easy to achieve in this deck, and as long as there are 4 or more quest counters on Quest for Renewal, untap all creatures you control during each other player's untap step. And the second golden pick of the day, I think there's 3. Golden pick of the deck is Intruder Alarm, an enchantment for 2 and a blue. Creatures do not untap during their controller's untap steps. Whenever any creature comes into play, untap all creatures out. It does include your opponents, but I love it because if you don't have a Seedborn Muse effect, just let your opponents play creatures. You'll get those free untap. Respond with a tap to draw or tap to get some +1/+1 counters. It doesn't matter. It does. It fits perfectly in this deck, and there's no way I would ever remove it from this deck. Deep Root Waters is an enchantment for 2 and a blue. Whenever you cast a Merfolk spell, create a 1/1 blue Merfolk creature token with Hexproof. So very, very nice. Some more tap fodder. Okay, Awakening. Seedborn Muse on an enchantment. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, untap all creatures and lands for 2 green. Count how many times I've said Seedborn Muse. And I think that's the last of the enchantments. Alluring, right? An enchantment for 2 green. Any player may play a creature card with total casting cost 3 or less whenever he or she could play an instant and without paying its casting cost. So it gives all 3 CMC or less creatures flash, and they're free. So we want to get this guy out so that we can get going. I don't know if you knew this, but our commander gets around summoning sickness, so getting those creatures out is immediate advantage. One of the only ramp spells in this deck, because it works so well, is Harvest Season for 2 and a green. Search your library for up to X basic land cards, where X is the number of tapped creatures you control. Put those cards onto the battlefield tap, then shuffle your library. It is excellent, and it has done wonders in the games I've played so far. Distant Melody is a sorcery for 3 and a blue. Choose a creature type. Draw a card for each permanent you control of that type. Perfect. And here we have the only 2 artifacts in the deck, Soul Ring and Arcane Signet. Potential cuts. Are they great? Heck yeah. Would I rather have more fun stuff in there? Absolutely. Here we have the instance, Swan Song. You know what that does. I mean, you're going to counter target enchantment, instant, or sorcery spell, give them a bird for 1 blue mana. Yes. An offer you can't refuse, same thing, but give them 2 treasures instead. Well, not same thing. Non-creature spell. Rapid hybridization. Destroy. It's pretty much blue removal. Give them something in exchange. Now we're moving on to this tutor here. We're still in the instant, so let's do Worldly Tutor. Search your library for a creature card and reveal that card to all players. Shuffle your library and put the reveal card back on top of it. What are we getting? Very likely a Seedborn Muse effect. Did I say Seedborn? Just kidding. But yeah, we're probably going to get that. And if we already have that, just get something else. Probably one of the Island Walk things. We have Mana Drain. We know what that does. Nice counter. Counter Spell. I don't need to elaborate. Arcane Denial is great. Just more counters. Cyclonic Rift, a potential cut just because it's a salty card, you know. But it is in the deck because, believe it or not, you are seen as a threat. And you have to be the threat. Muddle the Mixture is a way for us to get any 2 CMC card, aka Earthcraft, aka Merfolk Commerce, aka Island Walk Enablers, anything you may need, or you can use it as a counter. So, very nice card in this deck. Negate, of course. Heroic Intervention, some board protection. Fierce Guardianship, ooh, free counter magic. Yes, because those board wipes are going to be coming for you. I'll tell you that much. Beast Within. Destroy target permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3. Yeah, let's remove target permanent, including those pesky lands, such as Gaia's Cradle, which I don't have in this deck right now. Court of Calling, a great tutor in this deck. It is 3 green pips. However, Convoke is very good, and we will have enough green. I guarantee you that. Search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost extra or less and put it into the battlefield and shuffle your library. Now we're moving on to the lands. Command Tower. Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth. Told you we were going to have green. We're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 forest. Basic forest. Castle Vantress. Enters the battlefield tapped unless you control an island. You can add a blue or you can pay 4 and tap it to scry 2. Tolaria West, it's another transmute card, but this time it's a land. It comes in tapped. You can tap it for blue, or you can transmute to go get another land or any 0 CMC spell. In this deck, we're going to go get a land that gives us flash, or a land that gives us lots of mana, such as Nykthos and Gaia's Cradle, if it does get added to this deck eventually. Now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 basic islands, a misty rainforest, a breeding pool, a tropical island, hinterland harbor, dreamroot cascade, flooded grove, vine glimmer snarl, waterlogged grove, rejuvenating springs, Yavimaya coast, Nykthos Shrine to Nyx, Reliquary Tower, so that we can keep all our cards that we're going to be drawing. Alchemist Refuge, you can tap it for a colorless, or you can pay green and a blue, tap it, and you may cast non-land cards this turn as though they had flash. So once you get that Seedborn Muse effect in there and you have this bad boy out, it is Value Town. And then this might be a cut, but Novigen, Heart of Progress. You can tap it for colorless, or you can pay Simic and tap it, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature that enters the battlefield this turn. Potential cut doesn't really, I mean, it's good, but we can do better. And guys, that is my Kumena deck. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any suggestions, leave them down in the comment section below. I know these new cards coming out are going to make the deck so much better. And I look forward to listening to your input. Until next time, Nelside Gaming out.